One of the things that's very, very important in playing blues guitar is string bending. A string bend allows you to take a note and make it higher without actually moving your finger on the fretboard. You don't have to move your finger up the neck like that. You can actually keep on the same fret, bend the string, push the string up, and it will stretch and take the note up like this. It's a really nice sound, and it was, I think, developed from harmonica players who used to bend the harmonica note, and other people did it with a slide on the guitar, and people like B.B. King tried to emulate that by doing it another way, and they discovered that if you bent the strings, pushed them around basically, you can make these nice crying sounds, and it's a very, very, again, I'll use the word emotive sound, it's a very emotional sound. You can make the guitar cry. So it's a very, very emotive sound. When you see some people play, sometimes people who don't really have that much of a handle on it often bend the wrong notes. And whilst, again, I'll preface everything I say with actually in music you can do anything you want, you can come back from that and set yourself some basic rules which are sort of common sense, really. And if it sounds good, then it works. If it doesn't sound good, it doesn't work. In the kind of lesson that we're having today, we're going to keep things simple, and I'll talk about the things that are the basic things that work and the basic things that will form the framework for you to become a better guitarist in the long term. So, looking at the minor pentatonic scale, which is our old friend this, I'll just show you one variation on that. Most blues guitarists like Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, Gary Moore, they play that slightly differently. They don't do this. They do the top bit the same, but they do that there. They do, instead of, it sounds the same, but it allows you to use this very strong first finger to pull it about a bit, so you can go, and it puts that shape the same as that shape, which you often start solos around that. So it's a nice way to do it. So I would recommend that you learn both ways. Some things will fall better under your fingers that way, and others that way. So learn them both and see which one you prefer most of the time. So string bending. What we actually try to do when we bend a string is bend a note from one place to another, and the place has got to make some sense, some musical sense. So take these top two notes for example. You could play that. Sounds quite nice. Doesn't sound quite as nice as, does it? With a bit of vibrato on the top. It's a nice crying sound, so. So what we're doing is bending that note up to there. Or you can look at it another way. That note is the same as that note. So you're bending that note up to there. With a bit of vibrato on the top, it really does make it sound really nice. Then there's another bend like this one. Or you can bend the top string. You're bending from you can play lots of really nice licks just using those notes and those three bends. The most famous intro in blues is this. Every blues guitarist on the planet has played that. Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's a very, very common thing. So you'll have to learn that. That's one of the first things you learn. So there's two bends. Bend that one up to there. It's a nice little rounded lick on its own. You'll notice I'm bending with this finger, not my little finger. Some people might teach you to do that. If that's the way you want to do it, you do that. I prefer to do it this way because it's stronger. So, string bending. Getting into the second position of the minor pentatonic. That's in the second position. You can do big bends. Dave Gilmour of Pink Floyd, he's one for the big bends like... I bend in two stages there. I bend further, let it right down to the bottom. That's quite an advanced thing to do, and it's quite hard on the fingers. What I would say about string bending is you see lots of people learning to play the guitar, they get it all wrong. They think that when you bend a string, you hold your finger at that angle to the string, and try to bend it like that. You can't do it. You simply can't do it. Because the finger itself has no strength like that. There's no strength in the finger at all. It'll just buckle. You can't do that. So the string is quite heavy. They reckon that every string is a weight of about 16 pounds. So you're trying to push 16 pounds, which is, a heavy old weight on the end of that little finger. The joints haven't got the strength in it. So the best way to bend the strings is not to do it like that, or like that, or like that, or like that, but put your fingers at an angle. So basically you're using the strength, the inherent strength in the finger. That's very hard. That'll lift 16 pounds very easily. So put the finger to the side, to an angle, and actually bend it. And secondly, you'll notice I'm actually bending with this finger, but this finger is behind it, also on the string, supporting it. So in fact, rather than this finger having to lift 16 pounds, these two fingers are sharing the 16 pounds, so they're sort of lifting 8 each, which obviously makes it easier. Not only does it make it easier, but it allows you more control to do things like vibrato. If you're bending with just one finger, it's quite hard to be in control of vibrato. Put the two fingers behind it, you can actually you can play with the note, you can abuse the string a bit, and that is a great thing to do in blues. So wherever you play, support the note, support the finger with the second finger. Some people, even if they're bending with that finger, I'm doing it there, I've actually got 3 fingers. 3 fingers are bending one note. It's coming from that one, but these two are supporting it behind. That's better on those long bends where you've got a big stretch like that. Or on the top string, where the top string is a little bit harder to bend because the tension is slightly higher on the top string. It gets slacker as you go down. So, for instance, the third string is easier to bend. It's very important to learn to bend accurately. It's pointless bending strings. You hear beginner guitarists do that, and it's the worst giveaway. It's the easiest giveaway that you don't quite know what you're doing. So I would say really learn to get your string bends nice and accurate. And there's a really nice way to do that. You can do this watching telly or anything. You can actually test yourself. It's quite hard. I'm not saying I'm going to get it right first time, but for instance, if you bend, let's try and do this bend. We're going to bend that string till it sounds that note, okay? What I would do is I bend up without playing it, okay? Then I'd bend up without playing it, play it, then test it against the note you're aiming for, your target note. So Notice I've actually bent the string up there. That's a bit flat, flat, pretty much there. Sharp. Sharp is above the note, flat's below the note. It's a really good way to do it. See, I'm bending it up without playing it. Now I play it. That wasn't too bad. It's hard, even for somebody who's been playing a long time, to get it dead right, but there are other things like adding string vibrato, finger vibrato, which allow you to pull the note in and out of tune a little bit more to your liking, in fact. See how that was out? It's all to do with learning the tension of the strings and learning how hard you've got to bend a certain string to get it to the right pitch. Another good way of testing yourself is to bend. For instance, I'll use the same string. Now that, if you think about it, you're bending through both of those notes. You don't hear the second one, because you normally just bend it. It just goes through it without you hearing it. But if you want to get really accurate at string bending, why not practice? You can use that sometimes in music. It's not the commonest thing to hear, but you can use it. But what it does do is it allows you to learn a bit of control. And control in blues playing, when you think of the way that Jimi Hendrix would play a note, B.B. King would manipulate notes, Eric Clapton manipulates notes, Gary Moore is a wonderful manipulator of notes. And these are guys who've learned how to bend strings really well. They've learned fantastic finger vibrato. And they really know how to control the notes. So control is the number one thing. And I was speaking with Gary Moore, sorry to name drop, but I was speaking with Gary Moore about that very topic. And what he said to me was that if you're trying to teach anybody to learn to play the guitar, tell them, it's the age-old adage, walk before you can run. It's pointless learning to play lots of notes until you've learned to play one note properly. Listen to this, for instance. They're nicely played notes. It's nice and clean, there's a bit of vibrato on it. Sounds like I'm in control of the guitar's not in control of me. You start to learn to play faster than that before you can actually control those notes. You won't actually sound very convincing, because all you'll be doing is playing lots of bad notes instead of what you want to do eventually is play lots of good notes. Here's a little bit of playing with some string bends in it, and it just shows how you can get some control in what you're playing and make it sound interesting. And like vocals, playing the guitar is like singing. You've got to make what you play sound like somebody singing. So.